So, leaders everywhere are scratching their heads, asking the same question. Why are so many of our AI projects, these promising initiatives, just crashing and burning? Well, I'll tell you right now, the answer isn't what you think. It's not about weak models or messy data. It's a hidden, structural risk that can make your entire AI roadmap collapse before you even get off the ground. Let's get into it. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll dive into what I call the AI pilot paradox. Then, we're going to diagnose the real reason so many of these projects fail. After that, we'll uncover this massive flaw called the decision ownership gap and see how AI agents are about to make it 1,000 times worse. But don't worry, we'll end with a blueprint for a new way of working and talk about how to actually lead in this crazy new era. First up, the AI pilot paradox. You know what I'm talking about? It's that giant, frustrating gap between the promise of an AI experiment and the painful reality of actually making it work across the entire company. Okay, so why is this happening everywhere? I mean, organizations are running countless AI pilots, but almost none of them are translating into real, lasting business value. There's some kind of invisible wall here, and it's holding everybody back. And look, it's not like people aren't trying. A whopping 88% of organizations are already experimenting with AI, so the ambition is there, right? The effort is there, but the results just aren't following. And here it is, the paradox. Despite all that activity, almost none of these projects ever make it out of the lab. They get stuck in this permanent pilot phase. And the value? It just never shows up. And let me be clear, this is not a failure of technology. This is a failure of organization. So let's play doctor and diagnose this failure. Because I promise you, the real problem here, it's almost certainly not what you're thinking. Now, when an AI project hits a wall, we all hear the same familiar excuses, right? Oh, the models weren't good enough, or the data was a mess. We couldn't find the right people, or the funding just dried up. These are the usual suspects we round up. But here's the thing. Those aren't the root cause. They are just symptoms. They're the fever, not the infection. They all point to a much deeper structural risk that's baked right into the way our companies are designed. And this is the absolute core of it. The real reason for failure is something called the decision ownership gap. Think of it as a hidden flaw in your company's DNA. And AI, well, AI is putting a giant spotlight right on it. Okay, let's get really clear on something. Most organizations are fantastic at project accountability. Asking, did we build the thing on time? Was it on budget? Easy. But they completely fall apart when it comes to decision accountability. They can't answer the single most important question. When this AI gets it wrong, and trust me, it will, who owns that outcome? Whose head is on the block? This quote from the chief risk officer of the New York Fed just says it all. In our big, complicated companies, responsibility gets spread so thin it basically disappears. Everyone does their little piece of the puzzle, but nobody is accountable for the final picture. So what do we mean by decision ownership? It's simple, really. It means you can point to a specific human and say, that person made the judgment call that this AI is now executing. It's about having a real person authoring the decision, even if a machine is holding the pen. Without that clarity, you don't have accountability. You just have plausible deniability. Now, if you think that ownership gap is a problem today, just wait. It's about to get thrown on rocket fuel with the rise of agentic AI. Systems that can act on their own to get things done. This is where the risk goes from bad to truly dangerous. Now, if you remember one thing from this entire explainer, make it this. Agents scale structure. They don't just automate a task. They find the patterns in your organization, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they replicate them at incredible speed. And that leads to a very scary but inescapable conclusion. If your decision-making structure is a tangled mess, you're not going to be scaling intelligence. You're going to be scaling confusion at machine speed. Just take a look at this chart. It lays out exactly why this is so terrifying. Over on the left, you've got your simple human-led systems where trust is pretty straightforward. But as you move to the right towards these complex multi-agent AI systems, the complexity of just governing them explodes. It grows exponentially. Every step you take up this curve is a massive leap in the risk of completely losing control. And hey, this isn't some sci-fi future. We're seeing it right now. We hear from leaders who say they went from managing like 5 software agents to suddenly having 500 running around the business, almost overnight. They're calling it agent sprawl. It's this wildfire that spreads with absolutely no central control or clear lines of who's responsible for what.
Okay, so we've spent enough time on the problem. How in the world do we fix it? Well, it's going to take a completely new AI operating model, and here's the blueprint for it.
This table really shows the massive shift we have to make. On the left is the old, failing way, where ownership is fragmented all over the place. On the right is where we need to be, with clear ownership of outcomes. We have to go from doing reviews once a quarter to having governance that's built in and always on. And this is huge. We have to get humans out of the loop of every single task and move them above the loop where they can steer the whole system. It's a total redesign. So this all boils down to three big moves. Number one, you have to redesign accountability around outcomes, not just checking off tasks. Number two, you've got to build your controls into the system so they're continuous, not an afterthought. And number three, and this is critical, you have to start treating the design of your operating model like a top-tier architecture decision, every bit as important as your tech stack.
And that brings us to our final and most critical point, governing this incredibly dynamic future. And I'll tell you right now, this is not a technical challenge. It is a leadership imperative.
This quote just gets right to the heart of it all. We have to stop asking, what can AI do? And start having a much more serious conversation about what should AI do. It's a fundamental question of intent, of values, and of responsibility.
Look, at the end of the day, the goal isn't to put the brakes on AI. It's to design a smarter, more coherent organization around it. It's about building a system where human judgment and, most importantly, human accountability are intentionally and strategically placed. This is about organizational architecture, not just algorithms. So I'm going to leave you with this one question. The agents are coming. They're already here. They will make decisions that impact your business, your people, and your customers. The only question that really matters is this: when they do, who in your organization will be accountable?